The Zimmer Radio Network headquarters. It's your morning addiction.
To each and every one of you, I just want to thank you so much. Incredible people.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell.
He fought to keep our country safe, and now we have to pray.
The Zimmer News Team.
U.S. is hearing us, U.S. is supporting us, U.S. is walking beside us.
And now, introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
I have a statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated.
Well, Caroline Leavitt was on fire yesterday during her news conference, her daily press briefing. I listened to most of and I mean one after another, just took on the media as she always does. And in the wake of criticism of the narco boat strikes and so many other things, she was just really on fire. Welcome into Wake Up Missouri. I'm Randy Tobler. Stephanie Bell has her Boy, is it cold outside hoodie on today.
My white camo.
I know. Yeah, you'll have to.
I could blend in with the snow.
Well, there's an antlerless season coming up. You going to get out up in the stand?
Not a hunter.
And Drake, you have your hoodie on too? Yeah, Drake's got his hoodie on. Yeah, John doesn't have his hoodie on. But
no hoodies.
It is cold. You thought it was cold last night. Wait till tomorrow night into Thursday. It's going to be even worse. I think single digits is what I'm hearing. So bundle up. It's going to be very, very interesting, with maybe a little warm up over the weekend. So this is a revolving or an evolving controversy concerning the September 2nd strike on a narco boat, and then apparently the decision with some of the survivors, a couple of the survivors hanging on to some of the shreds of that boat, taking them out, and allegedly, according to one report, the New York Times, or was it the Times or the Post, Pete Hegseth said, kill them all. Kill them, right? And then that's where the controversy comes in.
Someone has to explain this to me. So It's totally cool to blow up the boat.
Yes.
But if you miss and leave two guys behind and then blow them up afterwards, you're in the wrong?
Well, I heard Jonathan...
Like if we would have just blown them up first time, we're good?
Jonathan Turley, I heard him talk about this, and others have sort of referenced the same kind of a context, that according to the laws of war, I don't know, John maybe can comment on the law of war. Is that the international, some agreed upon law of war? Is that what's that guy named, the Chinese guy that did the art of war?
Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu. Was that according to his laws of war? I don't know. I guess it's okay if you don't totally destroy the boat and then you only go after the boat.
The people instead of the boat.
Then you're okay.
So
that's legal. But if you just go after the people because they're floating out in the ocean, it's not okay.
It's the boat versus the people. So we weren't going after the drugs. We were just going after the people. Got it. That makes sense.
Well, yeah, but if you're going after the people and they just have their little orange, life vests on, that would probably be a problem. That would potentially be against the law. But if they're hanging on to the boat and you're just destroying the boat, wink, wink, then you're just destroying the boat and the people happen to be collateral damage. That would be legal, according to Sun Tzu. Whoever the laws of war are, I don't know.
Okay.
Well, in this whole deal, they get into the whole debate of whether this is an armed conflict or not.
Well, that's the whole thing. Yeah, are we in a war?
Are we in a war?
Yes.
We're not in a declared war, but is it an armed conflict? And say if you're being threatened and all that, and the perception of it, it's kind of up to the lawyers to decide who's in the right.
And Hegseth is saying, I said nothing of the sort to kill those remaining survivors. I said, Admiral Bradley, take care of business and get rid of the boat. I think this is going to be something that is, again, like the Democrats, grasping at something to make hay on politically.
Whenever you're on your computer and it's slow and you press the button 5 times when you only mean to press it once, but it's just not responding. I bet that's what happened. They'd meant to send one missile and he didn't see it. So he clicked it twice and boom, innocent people, got blown up. It's fine.
That's what it was. Yeah.
We all make mistakes.
Instead of pushing the launch button twice, they only pushed it once or it got jammed.
Yeah.
So they were just firing the second missile.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I don't know why we're blowing this out of proportion.
Well, and of course, a lot of people are commenting on, wait a minute, didn't Barack Obama take out this American citizen, Anwar al-Awlaki, right? Who was a terrorist, a cleric terrorist who was, I think he was a dual citizenship, American and Yemeni. Didn't he take him out, an American citizen, without some kind of adjudication and proper process that you're supposed to do? I took him out with a drone, didn't he? I think this is much ado about nothing. And again, where were the Democrats when things like that happened? Where were the media? They didn't go crazy over that. They were, oh, hey, he took out the terrorist. And others have said, well, these guys aren't really bringing fentanyl in. They're bringing cocaine in. So I'm sorry. You get on a boat and you'd bring cocaine in, and it's gonna harm, injure, threaten, my child or my friend or someone who, God help them, are into cocaine. God, you hope that doesn't happen to anyone, but it does. And, it happens, and people get involved in things, and we don't need to have people from Venezuela bringing that stuff in by the boatload. Have you seen the cargo that those boats? It's like, imagine a fishing boat, a huge fishing boat with like 20 of the biggest tackle boxes you've ever seen, full of narcotics, right? And now they're massing around Venezuela and even talking about closing off the airspace. So this is getting to be serious in terms of the pressure he's putting on Maduro to get the heck out of there.
Yep, that's what he said. He said he would offer them free passage if they left immediately for Maduro and his family.
And meanwhile, in the wings is this woman who won the Nobel Peace Prize, right? She's the opposition leader there. And boy, wouldn't that be a breath of fresh air to have someone in that part of the globe that more sympathetic to, our values, at least stated to be the case. Speaking of sympathetic to our values, Kristi Noem on fire, coming out saying, this has got to stop, in a fiery tweet, and, basically wanting to shut down. I think Trump talked about, 19 terrorist states, these third world countries that send us these people, and we continue to bring them in, not anymore, but Joe Biden brought them in by the scads with people that, like this Afghani who shot these National Guardsmen. We were driving down to be with Shannon and family down a little bit, what would that be, south or southeast of Nashville, where you were hanging out in Nashville.
I was hanging out in Nashville, and you were right in Clarksville. You were right in the heart of this congressional race that's happening today's election day.
And boy, in her subdivision, where there's a lot of retired military and some law enforcement people, I saw some sheriff, and I didn't see it in their yards, but there were several Afton Bain signs up in her neighborhood, which is, you see a lot of, big A trucks, and a lot of, you think people, sort of the kind of Trump kind of voters, saw a lot of Afton Bain signs up.
Yikes.
She's making a big splash. God, she's just so radical.
Well,
this is the day.
I mean, they do think the Republican is going to win.
Matt Van Epp?
Yes. Yeah. But, that's a plus 22 Trump district, and they're saying it could be single digits, which would be a bad omen.
Mike Johnson was on with the Republican candidate who served tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I think is a helicopter pilot. Guy's got quite a nice resume. I think a local businessman, and Johnson was practically begging people, please do not be complacent. I know it's just after Thanksgiving. I know you have to put up your tree and do your shopping and everything. Please do not stay home, because I think we don't want to have happen in that district, with a slim margin now of already just 2 or 3 before this election in the House. We don't see what happened in New Jersey and Virginia happened there as well. People just being complacent.
Well, and we see it here locally in our spring elections, right?
Yeah.
In very conservative areas, we get very liberal city electeds, or we get liberal school board electeds, and it's all about turnout.
Terrible turnout. Yeah, just absolutely. That will be an interesting one to watch. There's been a lot of money poured in. Talk about, we talk a lot about these ballot issues, whether it's a constitutional amendment or whether it was Prop A, or the money just pouring in from everywhere but Missouri to ultimately really put a lot of momentum on these issues. And I think that's what they're seeing down in Tennessee as well. Saw Tim Burchett was talking about that. It's just it's something to behold if in fact she somehow pulls it out. She just has a really sort of a mean streak about her. If you listen to some and read about some of the things she said and written about, and we played the clip where she doesn't like Nashville, doesn't like the bachelorette parties. I hate Nashville.
She hates the police.
Hates them. That's right. Wanted to defund the police as well. But after all, if you're I heard her this morning talking about how she just keeps saying that this has been a very successful Democratic talking point, which is absolutely wrong. They just don't have a plan for affordability. They just don't have a plan for affordability. Well, I don't know. I think they do have a plan for affordability, and a lot of it centers around gasoline prices and how, that we've seen some real change in that. It's really been gratifying to see things are finally coming down a little bit there.
It is actually less than $2.75 a gallon, including North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas,
Missouri,
Iowa, Wisconsin, and Colorado as well. Certainly nice to see this. Why is this happening? Well, it all comes down, of course, to oil prices.
And oil prices are down, hovering below 60. I know you'll be covering that on the morning market report, the morning bell at 8:35. Ahead of that, at 7:10, we have Chief Jill Schluty. I can't wait to talk with Chief Jill Schluty from Columbia Police Department about this VCAT initiative that was so successful, rounded up a bunch of folks here just a week or two ago. Talk to her about that, about holiday safety as well. And there's a lot of things I think that do change in policing and the kind of things they're looking out for. And a lot of that serve comes in as well as the protect around this time of the year. So she'll be in at 7:08, 7:10. And later on, we're going to talk with, this will be interesting. We're going to be talking to a spokeswoman for the International Council for Men and Boys. And the author of, John will find this in his stocking, and we'll give one to Drake too. Author of Real Men Don't Go Woke. So talking about gender equality.
Good title.
Did you know that November was International Gender Equality for Men Month? You didn't know that, did you? And there's women across the globe that are having these initiatives to help protect men because we're, after all, abused.
I don't know if that squares with my pronouns or not.
We'll be back with the Daily DC Rundown after this. Welcome aboard.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
executive physical. Advanced imaging was performed because men in his age group benefit from a thorough evaluation of cardiovascular and abdominal health. The purpose of this imaging is preventative, to identify any issues early.
That's Caroline Levitt. Here's Stephanie Bell with the Daily DC Rundown. What advanced imaging, Stephanie?
There were calls over the weekend to release the MRI results, and I kind of have a problem with this. Like, I don't think just because you're elected to office, like, you lose all of your privacy rights. And, you know, I do think the American people have a right to know if there's something serious going on that would affect the job or affect the country. But I think for Democrats to be saying, to watch Trump never sleep, talk to the press at all hours of the day, work, you know, and issue more executive orders that have been issued, you know, in a long time, and especially in the wake of what we saw with Joe Biden, for Democrats now to be like, we must see the results. You know, something's wrong. But Randy, I'm interested from you. I mean, Caroline Levitt said this is just part of the regular scanning. Do most people get an MRI?
This seems to me to be really quite extensive. They did what I think is a cardiac MRI. That's like the gold standard for looking at actually the heart muscle. Doesn't tell you a whole lot about the coronary arteries itself, but I mean, the chambers look good. Apparently, it didn't show any expansion, any heart enlargement, and good perfusion of the heart.
And she said it was kind of preventative. And I think more and more people, especially amongst like wealthy folks, you know, I've seen on Twitter people say you can go and like pay, you know, separately and get like a full body scan, and that it's pretty common in some other countries. And people who have enormous wealth, I see doing this a lot and saying, you know, it's part of just my routine to protect my family and to protect my business, to make sure I know like what my health outcomes are.
Right. There are some that, you know, the executive physical often entails some pretty advanced imaging. And they did MRIs to minimize, MRI is great to minimize radiation exposure and yet give you a lot of detailed information. So
okay.
It's good.
So healthy as a horse is the official report.
To be, yeah. That's amazing.
Diet Coke notwithstanding and cheeseburgers.
Special genes there. I don't know.
I mean, Randy, you preached to us about a good diet, but I think Trump
doesn't drink and doesn't smoke. That's a key.
Okay.
It's key.
Okay, that is key. But doesn't sleep. Also doesn't sleep.
Yeah, I don't know.
Spends a lot of time exercising on the golf course.
Yeah, that's true. And a positive outlook. His positive attitude
we talked
makes
about
a big
that
difference.
yesterday with Dick Van Dyke, and they said he wakes up every morning in a good mood. I think Trump probably wakes up in a good mood. But, you know, he's a little irritable at times, and Dick Van Dyke says that's not his MO.
No,
okay.
not his thing.
We talked a little earlier. Defense Secretary Hegseth is under some pretty intense scrutiny over this strike on the boat. The first strike apparently didn't kill everybody, and I think the Washington Post was reporting that there was some sort of kill them order. They are denying that, but Caroline Levitt addressed it yesterday, saying that he was well within his authority and the law, saying that the strikes were actually authorized by Admiral Frank Bradley, and that he was within his rights. The strike that we're talking about was actually the first of now more than 20 strikes that have been launched on boats in the Caribbean and East Pacific. Apparently, Hegseth was making calls over the weekend because we've heard some pretty vocal Congress members saying, this is not great. So he is trying to do some damage control. And, you know, he came in with some pretty intense scrutiny. So now that he's back in that position.
Congress is going to look into that, right? Some oversight, I think, function is going to go on there.
Correct.
Bipartisan.
Correct. And we should mention today is a special election in Tennessee. We are expecting the Republican candidate Matt Van Epps to win, but the real question is how much will he win by? He is up against a Democrat, Afton Bain, who is a crazy liberal. Trump won that district by more than 20 points. We should know the poll has Van Epps leading 48-46 within, just barely, but he should be winning by much more.
And Tim Dadgum Burchett's all worked up over that election. That when we come back next on Wake Up Missouri. But a place 6+ hours away doesn't really, affect you at all. But this Nashville area and this very red district, what'd you say, Stephanie? It's 22 plus 22 for Trump?
I think it was plus 22 for Trump, yeah.
This district is hotly contested. Just a few points in the polls separate the Patriot Republican candidate, Matt Van Epp, from this Afton Bain, who's just crazy. She's unhinged. We've played clips of her talking about how she hates Nashville, hates the Bachelorettes, hates country music, wants to defund the police. What else? Oh, yeah, the one where she was kicking and screaming as they were dragging her out of the governor's office, I think. She barged into the governor's office when there was some kind of protesting over something she was involved in a few years ago. And it does affect us because, there's always a couple, maybe one or two, sometimes more defectors from the Republican side on a lot of these votes. Already we talked about how this could affect the midterms and just be a little bit of a bellwether as to the difference between the energy and the momentum on the left and among progressives and the base there. And throw in a few independents. There are always a few independents that follow the lead of their right or left base. So even before that, though, it could be a problem because getting things done, we're coming up against, we're now, we're a little less than 2 months away from January 30th. We're looking at a potential another shutdown. I don't see how this is any different from the, funding the budget that happened just a month ago that we dealt with. And so how this election comes out is important. And what's interesting is that, Tim Burchett, who's a quite outspoken House member, has been doing a lot of these. He's always got his Carhartt on, sometimes over a suit. He's even in interviews the other day on one of the Talking Head shows, he had his Carhartt on. I think it's part of his persona. And he's the guy that makes skateboards. He says, how come I have to do a business plan, hire an attorney, and do all this to sell my skateboard, but yet I can inside stock trade and no one asks a question about it? The ethics committee doesn't say a word about that. Well, here's what he had to say about this election happening today down in the Nashville area.
Educated here, and I think we better wake up, folks. They are here, and we have let the proverbial fox into the hen house because you can't put this toothpaste back in the tube. We are in serious problems, and that race is going to be closer than it ever should have been. And we're just asleep at the switch, and this is what's happening all over our dadgum country. Y'all better wake up. We could lose our country. Reagan said it best. He said you can lose it. We could lose everything in one generation. Folks, we're 3 votes out in the House of Representatives. 3 votes. If we lose 3 votes, we could lose the republic, literally.
I don't think that do you think he's overstating things? Do you think he's hyperbolic, or do you think we really are at risk of that generational, transformational change should the midterms swing left? And should then in 28, because of that momentum, things happen to where there's a trifecta? I think we're on the precipice of really sort of a pivot point here.
Well, back to gridlock on Capitol Hill. He was kind of right on that point. If you lose the votes and you don't have the majority, not much gets accomplished.
A lot of impeachment hearings if that happens.
Yeah, you've got hearings, but beyond that, it puts a stop to all of the forward momentum of the Trump administration, right? And, we haven't had to negotiate a lot because we do have the majority. And so, there's some really important decisions coming up beyond all of the court cases going on. But you think, healthcare, right? We talk about it a lot on this show, and that those votes are looming. And what we do about healthcare, I think, is a generational potential problem, change, benefit. And whether or not we control Congress, I think matters there.
Well, there's no doubt that if the House is overtaken by the progressives, which now are the Democrat Party, there's very few very few moderates left anymore. You know, you think you saw some subsidies going to insurance companies now under Obamacare for what, 20 plus million? It is going to be on steroids. And when that happens, there will be more consolidation. And when there's more consolidation, you lose more control and autonomy over your health care, not to mention costs go up as well. So this discussion around health care, I think, really illustrates where we're at and crystallizes one of the many issues that we're talking about that are really important. It's a difference in worldview. I mean, the progressives are really at their core, they're okay with tens of thousands. What is it? 80,000 Somalis in Minnesota.
Oh, that was terrible.
Right?
Yeah.
And you've got
stealing money right out of your pocket.
What was it called? Fund the Future or some non-governmental organization that's supposed to be for autistic children, for crying out loud. Autistic children. And apparently a lot of the applications, I saw the pictures of the applications were filled out improperly, but yet they were passed through.
And not only that, but there were people within the department that were trying to report all of this fraud, and it was getting tamped down by people like Tim Walz.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Not just a handful.
No.
And it took some people from the Manhattan Institute, Chris Rufo and another guy, to sort of get under this and figure this out. Well, I guess in a manner in which a lot of conservatives / Republicans / hawkish kind of people, patriotic Defend America folks, will say, look, defense contracting can sometimes have some waste and abuse. $25 hammer. You know what I mean? Sure. But we say, okay, that is a government function. There's in big government bureaucracies, there's always going to be a little, I find myself arguing this sometimes. There's always going to be some corruption and some waste and some abuse and maybe even some fraud. But it's a constitutional duty of the federal government to defend the country. And, we should do the best we can to root it out. The progressives, on the other hand, say the function of government, using the general welfare argument, is whatever it takes to give people whatever they want to make their lives better on the back of taxpayers. And they accept fraud and waste and abuse. Well, it's only $1 billion. Come on. I mean, look at all the good that those non-government organizations do for some autistic children. It is just unbelievable. So it's a worldview problem. And when the worldview dominates Washington, D.C., that is, plunder the productive to redistribute to the voters who vote for me, that's a bad combination. It leads to socialism and communism ultimately. I think we're there. And with the fact that Afton Bain can have the support she does, and Mamdani have the support he does, and Gavin Newsom, and the mayor in Seattle is a Mamdani knockoff, same kind of a story, just got elected. This is not a sky is falling Chicken Little moment. I mean, we have to look at this and say, what is it? Where have we gone wrong in the education of our children as far as history and the way these kind of policies lead you? I don't know. It troubles me. Drake, I mean, you're looking at this landscape and a long life ahead of you. Is this just basically a little flare of progressivism you think people will learn their lesson? It doesn't work out well in those jurisdictions, and people will come around because the news cycle will get there.
I think that my generation is in the peak of their progressive mindset. I mean, they're in college, they're trying out these new ideas, whatever, and eventually whenever they either spend their 30s alone with their cats or actually start a family, I don't know at this point. But I did want to bring up something about, you said it was a special needs program in Minnesota?
I think it was for autistic children.
And the forms were filled out wrong?
I think so.
Do you think there might be some correlation with the base there?
No, I think this was fraudulently filled out wrong.
I don't know. I'm looking at this through the eyes of, I've seen some very autistic people, and I don't think they could fill out that
These
form.
$1 billion then went to this Boko Haram. That's the group that slaughtered Nigerian girls in a girls' school a couple years ago. I mean, I think it was Nigeria. It was somewhere in Africa there.
So is being anti-Muslim a thing now? Is that back? Are we finally getting to that point again? Because, it was, oh, you just hate the Muslims and then they do bad. And then we all start hating the Muslims. And it's like a cycle.
At the risk of sounding like a Christian nationalist, because I'm not, but there's something to be said about in the context of this guy who shot these guardsmen. I was just so struck on our drive down Wednesday as this thing unfolded. It was just sickeningly, nauseatingly horrific to listen to this thing unfold, and then the details of how this young woman who had volunteered to work on Thanksgiving,
just 20 years old, right?
so she could allow others, who have large families and stuff. She left her family to come and do that, and look at what happened. Get shot in the chest, and then he point blank executes her by shooting her in the head. Walks up and just, and he's mentally ill. I'm so tired of mentally ill. If you kill another human being at that moment, I guess it could be argued you're mentally ill. So let's just let all of them off the hook for mental insanity, right? I mean, really? Let's just think that through. If you want to follow that to its logical conclusion, if I'm involved in a drug deal and it goes bad, and at that very moment, I'm probably mentally ill. I've lost control of my anger management and whatever, and so, I'm mentally ill, so I'm insane. So I've had it. These people were brought over here. Their worldview is different. They're not like the first and second great waves of immigration. Those people came from Ireland, from Italy, from Germany. They were Jews and they were Christians largely that came from Western European cultures, and they assimilated into
Europe, yeah.
a Judeo-Christian culture. We bring people over that are born, bred, believe in a Muslim culture, misogyny, abuse women. You can rape them and they better not report it. That's the Muslim culture. And we somehow think that by landing in America and taking advantage of our healthcare system and our education system and our wealth, that somehow they're going to say, oh, thank you. Now I think I'll enroll in my local Catholic church and put on my kid will be the choir boy. No, it's not going to happen.
And yeah, Jen pointed out yesterday, they're not assimilating, they're colonizing, right?
They're Ilham Omar, right? I mean, that's what they are. They hate America because we're not like them. And God love them. Let them do what they want to do, but stay there. Drop them off in Egypt. Drop them off in Syria. Drop them off in Afghanistan. Don't pass go. Don't pass Middle East. Don't collect $200. Stop there.
That's what the president says with the travel ban.
Yep, and let's now start returning them there. You're either with us and you love this country or you don't. Well, on Make Missouri Healthy Again, I got some interesting news for you.
We're going to talk about ways to lower your blood pressure.
About studies of holiday weight gain. Actually, the news isn't all that bad. Make Missouri healthier and a little heavier again when we come back.
It's
Kim Carnes and Betty Davis eyes, it's because we have a really great sport and a wonderful chief of police named Jill Schluty, who's on with us now. And Jill, welcome into the program. Hope you're feeling a little better than when I contacted you last evening.
Good morning. I'm fighting the good fight right now.
Well, thank you. The backstory on this, ladies and gentlemen, I had asked Chief Schluty to be on to talk about Operation Brightside, about holiday safety, and I contacted her to confirm the interview, and she said, "I'm a little under. I may sound like Kim Carnes, but hey, let's go for it." And thank you so very much for being on with us, because it is a unique time of the year when, there's so much hustle and bustle going on. Crime never stops. But I think everyone, Chief, is sure buoyed in the wake of Operation Brightside. Just wanted you to talk a little bit about the conception of that, how it came about, and just expand a little bit about it, and still what you're learning about some of the perps that were caught.
Sure. So last year, the Missouri the federal
U.S. Attorney,
I took too much NyQuil last night, I think. The U.S. Attorney's Office contacted us and several other law enforcement agencies about kind of reinvigorating a federal task force. And we were obviously interested in that. We had not really participated in anything like that since the Second Amendment Preservation Act had been in effect. And so the U.S. Attorney's Office put that back together, our partners down in Jeff City. We were a willing participant. And so since that time, we've been working on coming up with a list of folks here in this community that we feel like are some of our higher level perpetrators, and just working on getting cases at the federal level. And so this was kind of a culmination of that. And then the federal partners were kind enough to also help us go out and try to find some folks who had outstanding felony state warrants as well.
I just thought it was a remarkable coordination. I mean, it takes a lot of coordination, I guess, even within your department, if you're dealing with a situation, on an everyday basis on something, there's a little hornet's nest of criminality going on. I can't imagine what it's like to try to coordinate with how many other agencies, DEA and ATF, and I mean, what, 5 or 6, Boone County Sheriff's Office and Highway Patrol, right?
There were several, and I need to give a huge thank you to Assistant Chief Lance Bollinger. He oversees our investigations bureau, and this is kind of his bread and butter. He's a long time SWAT guy. He's been our SWAT commander at different times over the years, and so he really picked up the torch when asked and helped coordinate all the teams, who was going to go after which folks, and just really did a great job organizing everything. I got a lot of great compliments from our partners on his work, so he deserves a big thank you.
Yeah, and so several months ago, you kind of announced this effort that a lot of people, I think, refer to as the broken window theory. Hey, we're going to start cracking down on even the small things. And what we know from experience is that tends to also tamp the bigger things down. How's that effort been going?
I think it's been going well. Obviously, having an increased number of officers on the street through better staffing, I think has really helped that. And really, a lot of that is getting back to the type of policing that we used to be able to do when we had staff. There's a huge difference between what I call just completely reactive policing, which is what you're really forced to do when you're down 40 or so police officers, and proactive police work, which is what we're trying to transition back into now that our numbers are looking better. So I'm hoping this is a trend that we're going to see. Obviously, we have folks that still retire. Some people get into the job. It's not for them. We'll always kind of have that natural ebb and flow. But I think as we get closer to filling all our vacancies, we'll see this hopefully be a sustained effort.
That's Chief of Police Jill Schluty, Columbia Police Department, joining us on Wake Up Missouri this morning.
Chief, we always talk to you about recruiting and, just as importantly, retention when we talk to you. How's the retention side of it? Because Mid-Missouri is so competitive with all these law enforcement agencies based here.
It's going much better. I think it's going to have to be a sustained effort, and that means constantly we can't let our guard down and stop looking at things like pay and benefits, working conditions. You guys have heard me talk about. I really want to get us out of that building. I think that's a huge a morale driver when you go into a place every day that's just no longer kind of fits the work that you're trying to do. The amount of people that we have in that building, I think that makes a huge difference. I think we're still going to have, and we've noticed we had 16 people in the current academy class, had one that just didn't work out. That's always going to happen. But I think keeping those folks engaged long term makes a big difference. And I will tell you, I very, very keenly watch what other cities in Missouri are doing as far as their pay. I noticed the other day, St. Joseph, Missouri executed a new contract with their union. They're getting some pretty significant pay increases and movements in their step plan. And so I think we're going to have to watch those very carefully, or we're going to lose folks to other places.
Well, I'll say it. You don't have to. I'll say it. That sounds like a call to action on the part of the city council to keep an eye on your keen, watchful eyes and maybe connect and find out what it takes to be competitive. It's important. It's a reality of things. Hey, talking about policing and proactive work, this is a time of year when, let's face it, people are out partying more. And when people party more, they tend, even though mocktails are becoming more popular, cocktails and things like that are also popular. People lose their filters. I know that often probably has a lot to do with people acting out in criminal ways. Some advice for folks that are going to be out and about and, shopping and then maybe hitting the local eateries and hanging out downtown. Any kind of just safety and prevention advice for folks, and a little bit about what you're doing around the holidays as far as your staff and, officers on the street.
I'm a huge fan of planning ahead. So if you can plan who's going to drive, you've heard ever since I can remember, we've talked about designated drivers, and that really is a thing that people should think about. Uber's not always an option for folks. Sometimes you just don't live close enough that's a really viable option. So having a plan on who's going to drive, if folks are going to drink, I think is really important. When you're out shopping, this time of year, we usually see an increase in thefts from motor vehicles, putting packages in a trunk and out of sight. Even if you drive an SUV and you don't necessarily have a trunk, having something handy, even just covering things with a blanket or something, just takes away that visual opportunity of someone going, okay, that's the car that I'm going to break into. Obviously, making sure you lock your doors is really important. Nowadays, with the push-button cars and the fobs, and some people can start their phones from their cars. I think it's really important to make sure your car is always locked, but just general awareness. I noticed that there's also an increase in, burglaries. We talk about burglaries this time of year. Columbia is a community that rotates kind of around the university schedule in a lot of ways. So we've had at different times spikes in burglaries because people know there are some folks in the community that are less likely to be around during the month of December because that's when they're out of school and out of work. So just planning ahead, letting neighbors know you're going to be gone, making sure you leave lights on, doing some of those basic things just to make sure that your holidays aren't ruined by someone with not great intentions.
I think about things that you can do to protect the humble abode. These now sort of do-it-yourself and professionally installed home security systems with, more and more people having the doorbell cams and so forth. Is that not only a deterrent, but in the wake of something happening, can that be helpful? Or are we having false senses of security if we maybe think about that as a family gift this year to maybe give a little early and get outfitted?
No, we at the police department love the doorbell cameras and the outdoor cameras. They've become much more affordable over the years for people. And now that you have, ones that can be recharged, you don't have to go to the trouble of having someone come in and hardwire cameras. The cost is much more palatable than it was, even probably 5 or 10 years ago. One of the big important things is I will see with regularity someone posting a video someplace on social media about their car getting broken into or something. That's great, and we appreciate that you're sharing that and letting other neighbors know that this happened, that could be a problem. It's really important that you call and report it to us. Mm-hmm. Even if you know that there's less of a likelihood that we may catch the person, people would be surprised what we can piece together later with people sharing video. Obviously we utilize our camera system here in the city. And so we have investigators who spend a lot of time trying to piece together those things. Package thefts, huge problem this time of year.
Wow.
I think the Ring doorbell cameras and things of that nature help. I wouldn't overly rely on them. Obviously, the sooner you get the packages inside, the better.
Yeah.
But we've had cases over the years where people have actually followed UPS or FedEx trucks around neighborhoods and just kind of gone and did their shopping early and stole packages off porches. So just be very mindful that does go on sometimes.
Wow. And finally, returning back to the Operation Brightside, the minute we have left, reportedly that had a lot to do with illegal weapons. Is that being confirmed as you learn more and more about what was found and the facts of those cases?
Yeah, so we had there was a federal grand jury that served some indictments, came down with some indictments a few days before that, which was part of the timing that we chose. And so we actually have 2 members of our street crimes unit who are part of the ATF task force. So what that means is they have been mini-deputized in a way so that they can refer federal gun cases to the federal system, which makes it much more efficient. Obviously, that we don't have tons of ATF agents in Columbia. The ones we do have are very helpful to the police department and the sheriff's department. But being able to do that helps us make those cases and get those folks off the street earlier. That was a huge part of this. I anticipate that's going to continue to be something that we focus on.
All right. Well, all great news coming from Chief Jill Schluty joining us from the Columbia Police Department. And boy, thanks for your leadership and great work that you're doing in so many ways. Please give a shout out to all of your staff on and off the street, to keep us safe in the Columbia area. We really appreciate it. And thanks for being with us. A little under the weather. Hope you feel much better much sooner.
Thank you guys very much. Have a great holiday season.
All right. You too. Chief Jill Schluty. Wow. That's if you see something, share something is what I'm hearing there if you've got one of those cameras. Hey, you got your real ID? If not, you better pony up with a fee. That when we come back on Wake Up.
It's
administration says it will begin charging $45 for travelers who haven't changed or obtained a real ID. $45 will cover travel for a 10-day period. Back in November, TSA said travelers would face an $18 fee for not having a real ID, but the agency now says it had to raise the price because expenses ended up being higher than projected.
Well, there's our friend, Fox News correspondent Ryan Schmelz, reporting on how you may have to pony up if you don't have your real ID when you travel. To cover a 10-day period, it'll be a $45 charge. I guess inflation hits even the TSA, right? From $18 in February to $45 now. And I guess you go online and you get some kind of a waiver voucher and you show that along with your ticket when you pony up to the desk, right?
You know what's funny is, they originally implemented this program at the onset of 9/11, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when this thing passed. We were just now, in the last year? So we're 20 years out, right?
Yeah.
In the last year, we've been officially required to use a program that they, first talked about 20 years ago, but it only took them, a few months to double the fee?
I know. Yeah, so
nice.
This fee is part of the agency's next phase of the Real ID implementation. It'll require you to verify your identity through biometric. I guess that's your facial features or your iris print, or by a graphic system if you don't have a compliant form of identification. So this is to update the technology in order to facilitate that. And so you can go online at tsa.gov, follow the instructions, verify your identity, pay the fees once it goes into effect next year. So it won't happen until February, I guess, right? So they're going to let you off during the holiday time. I think this is interesting. Yeah, starting February 1st, TSA announced that yesterday. Now, how do you feel about that? $45 in addition to your already fairly pricey plane ticket, plus you pay for luggage, you pay for everything.
This might be my time to go get the real ID. I have not done it yet, but might push me over the edge. You can use your passport, or if so if you have a passport, no need. But I think a lot of people probably have already gotten the real ID, so most people won't be subject to it. I did see some folks, they got flagged. They were in line behind me at the last time I was flying out of Columbia, and they just said, "Oh, these folks don't have a real ID," and they kind of had to go do something extra, but they still got on the plane.
Yeah, I think they were having some workarounds. I saw that, but now the workaround will require a $45 fee. What if you haven't done that? February 1st comes, you haven't done that. You're there in line. I mean, is it a hard stop then? I didn't see that in the reporting. John, did you see anything about that as far as, if this is the only other option other than a passport or a real ID is to pay this fee?
Well, I know early on they said if you don't have a real ID, there are, I think you get put in a different line and there are other options out there. I know we had a coworker here who no longer works with us, whose son was graduating from basic training, I think, in Fort Sill, and he was a former guardsman himself and got stopped at the gate, and they didn't want to let him on post because he didn't have a real ID.
Wow.
Well, it appears as though you need to, if you're going to get a Missouri Real ID, you need to come up with some documentation. Well, why don't we talk about that a little bit when we come back on Wake Up Missouri? And International Men's Equality Month just passed, that at 8:08. About the Real ID, coming February 1st, if you don't have one, you'll have to pay $45 to help support the technology that will enable you to get on a plane at the TSA security point without a Real ID or a passport. And I was doing a little bit of research in terms of what that requires. And Stephanie, you talked about how your folks had some hiccups getting their Real ID. I know the first time we did that, I think I missed it on the first try. Best I can tell, you need to go to a driver's license office. Okay. I assume that means the DMV office, the dreaded DMV office, right?
Hey, last time I was at the DMV, I went to the one in Jefferson City, and I was in and out in 10 minutes.
You were?
Yeah, it was great.
One document, like a U.S. birth certificate, original certified copy. I don't know if I have the original copy of my birth certificate.
I had to send to Juneau, Alaska to get one.
Really?
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. A U.S. passport or an employment authorization document. That's the first deal. That's basically identity and lawful status documentation. One document that includes your full Social Security number, such as your card, where the heck that is, I don't know. That's long gone. I don't know.
Well, W-2 works, too.
A W-2 works, or a pay stub, yeah. 2 documents with your name and Missouri address, a utility bill, bank statement, or lease agreement. And then this is an interesting one. If your current name differs from your identity document. So let's say, I think many, if not most women still take their husband's name.
Correct.
Their last name. Okay.
So you have to have your marriage license, right?
And so you need to have your marriage license or a court order if you've had your name changed. You know?
That's pretty standard. I remember after I changed my name, I carried that license around for like a year because it seemed like everybody needed it for something.
You have to inform the staff at the beginning of your transaction you're applying for a Real ID. Don't lay those documents on and halfway into that second sentence say, oh, by the way, it's a Real ID. That probably doesn't qualify. You have to go to the back of the line then.
Yeah, I bet they got to toggle something in their template that they use for your driver's license because it's got the little star in the upper corner as opposed to a non-real ID.
We're getting a lot of texts from you all saying, wait a minute, I missed part of this. Do I have to pay the fee if I have a passport? No. You can still use your passport or your passport card. And there are a bunch of other various ones. But really, if you don't have a passport, you probably do need a Real ID.
And these fees, this $45 fee for travelers with no Real ID, I guess we should say, parentheses, or passport, will have to pay a $45 fee online before you get to the airport.
And the TSA is saying that more than 94% of passengers already use their Real ID or other acceptable forms of ID.
So this only affects 6% of people.
Presumably. I think if you fly a lot, people were like, I'm just going to go get the Real ID, except for me. And I don't know why I'm holding out because I have clear. So they've got my eyeballs. They have my fingerprints. Yeah. I have the global entry. They've got all of my biometrics. And now when you show up anyway, they take your picture of your face, right?
Right, yeah.
And so,
That's Stephanie Bell. I'm Randy Tobler, John Marsh, and Drake Whitman. We are Wake Up Missouri. Now, you mentioned earlier that there was a lot of, it's been, right after 9/11 is when this came out, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking basically a quarter of a century before it's now finally being enforced and really the hammer's coming down. But I think a lot of the resistance came from libertarian-minded, first principles conservatives that didn't want the government knowing everything about them and having this like, show me the papers. Where's your ID? I want to know. That sort of sounds a little bit like that. Like, where is your ID? I need to see it. Where is the gold star?
Now they need an ID and some money.
Yeah. Now, but I think a lot of
And your passport's not indefinite, is it? It's, what,
No.
10 years for a passport?
Yeah, and actually, you got to be really careful. That's a good point because I also think I should Google this so I don't get it wrong. But you can't travel if your passport's about to expire in I think 6 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if your expiration is within 6 months, they won't let you on. I'm pretty sure.
Wait a minute. You've got a valid passport, and it expires on January 1st. And are you saying maybe that if I travel on July 1st, I've got a problem?
I think that's some of the other countries, isn't it, Steph?
Country specific, yes.
Yeah.
Which is why we probably shouldn't let people from those countries immigrate to the United States of America.
And the kids' passports are only good for 5 years, which is a pain.
Huh. Well, I think I don't know, I would suspect that with some of the stories that have been, sadly, we've had to report it on the national news about illegal immigrants in one way or another taking advantage of the greatness of this country, whether it is in taking advantage of our welfare system, our education, our health care, or worse, the violent criminal behavior with the young children and young women who have been accosted, raped, murdered, the truck drivers who have caused these horrific accidents that killed American citizens. I think more and more people are saying, maybe I'm okay with a real ID. Maybe it's okay. I will proudly wave my real ID and ask you, where is yours if you aren't from this country? Show me the stuff, I don't know. Has some of the political resistance, especially on the right, has that dwindled in light of the surge of illegal immigrants and in the wake of their exhaust fumes, shall we say?
Then you go and ask them, are you from America? And they're like, oh, durka durka, durka.
Oh my God.
And you have no clue what they're saying. So, it doesn't matter. They're still going to get their license from California and drive through Missouri and kill innocent people.
Nathan says military IDs are real ID compliant. Good. James says he's questioning the constitutionality of charging you $45 by the TSA to travel if it just doesn't sound legal. Well, there's a lot of stuff, I agree with you, James, that doesn't sound legal, like plundering your income to fuel politicians' redistributionist programs. Where is that constitutional? Bruce says, saw a special on News Nation called "Killing Cancer." Well, I don't know. I think the days of shunning the real ID are over. You're going to have to pony up and get it done, or have a passport or something else.
Look what Europe's doing. I had to apply through their government to go to London in September. That is already implemented. It's like a travel authorization that you have to get, even if you're just vacationing, not working. But the one that applies in the EU actually starts the last quarter of 2026. And I was reading about it here, what you have to provide before they'll even let you in the country, just if you're wanting to visit. And all your personal information, your name, your place of birth, nationality, home address, parents' first names, email address, and phone number, your travel document details about your level of education and current occupation, details about your intended travel and stay, details about any criminal convictions, any past travels to war or conflict zones, and whether you have recently been subject to a decision requiring you to leave your country. But you can't go. Like, if you don't have these, you can't clear customs if you don't have the travel authorization, and it's active right now in the UK. It's going to be active in the rest of the EU later this year, or 2026.
Well, since these liberals and progressives in America love everything that comes from Europe, right? They love open borders. They love nationalized health care. They love everything about Europe. They love Sharia law, wherever Sharia happens.
I might have commented to my liberal friend, yes, they might be liberal, but they still care who the hell's coming in their country.
No, but my point is, what's wrong with us doing that, right?
Yeah. No, I agree.
What'd they say? What kind of pushback do you get on that?
They didn't really have a rebuttal to that, no.
Well, we've talked about this election happening down in the Nashville area in a very red district with a sliver of Nashville included, or some of Nashville, where this seriously socialist progressive radical who wants to defund the police, hates country music, wants to get elected in Tennessee around Nashville area. Wow. There's a method to these Democrats, progressive, one by one, capturing these districts. This is a special election being held today. Caught Eric Holder talking about what the real goal is. He said it out loud. And if you don't think that they have an agenda that is going to absolutely turn this country upside down, well, think again.
I think the Supreme Court is a broken institution. We cannot leave in place without a discussion, at least, and I think without substantive reforms being put in place, this Supreme Court as it is presently constituted. If there is a Democratic trifecta in 2028, Supreme Court reform is something that has to be considered. Potentially expanding the court is something I think that also should be considered.
There you go. I mean, they have an agenda. In a way, they remind me of China. Barack Obama said it about health care. He said, well, Obamacare is just a step on the way to socialized medicine, to one-payer health care. They have a long vision. And it seems like, what Donald Trump is trying to do is take this tremendous ship of liberalism and progressivism that's infiltrated even parts of the Republican Party in years past. I think that's dwindling somewhat, although when the rubber meets the road, and we learned that during the showdown, the shutdown, which was a showdown, I think it still exists in some pockets. Trying to take this huge ship that is hurtling towards the Titanic, called the ship of the United Socialist States of America, led by Democrats, and turn it around. And so the media interprets that as reactionism and nativist and nationalist. Well, yeah. We've strayed so far from those original ideals. But at least they're honest about it. Eric Holder, there he goes. I've heard someone talk about 21 justices. Is that what they're talking? Someone mentioned that number on one of these, I thought. From 9 to 21? No. Couldn't be. What a disaster that would be. I don't know. John,
they want to destroy everything that makes us America, including our most fundamental institutions.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what you're seeing happen in Minnesota with the Somalians, and what you're seeing in Dearborn, Michigan, where half of that city is now essentially a Muslim stronghold, might be coming to a community near you. I don't know. John, what's happening?
How about bah humbug and then some?
Oh, wow. Grinch March when we come back. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
into custody in Annapolis, Maryland. Police say he allegedly pointed his shooting iron at 3 12-year-old girls who had arrived at his house to sing Christmas carols. They showed up around 8:30, and police say, yes, we recovered a Glock from Susie's home, exhibiting loud and belligerent behavior as he was questioned. Susie admitted to pointing the gun at the girls and says he told them, quote, I don't want your angels heard on high, and if there's a reindeer on my roof, I'll shoot him. Police say he was charged with first and second degree assault, and no one was injured.
My goodness, where was this? What?
Annapolis, Maryland. The Three Kings went the other way.
Well, I was going to say.
November 22nd. Is that too early to show up to sing Christmas carols? It's pre-Thanksgiving. I don't know. It doesn't justify it, but that's plenty early.
How were these? What age were these girls? High school?
12 years old.
12. Oh my goodness. What trauma for these kids, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they'll sing any Christmas carols. I don't even think you'll be able to talk them into the old folks' home.
I haven't seen that in a long time. We should bring that back, honestly. That would make my
I
day.
think I'll pass. Watch where you go, maybe.
Wow, that's amazing. Holy cow. A Glock? Waving a Glock, brandishing a Glock at 3 12-year-olds.
Why wouldn't you just not open your door?
Yeah.
Let
just
them
say,
move
thank you,
along.
girls. I really don't want to hear it. Have a nice day.
If you knock on my door, I'm not opening. I don't care if you are singing or you have cookies or you want to sell me something. Unless I know you. Even sometimes if I know you, I'm probably still not opening my door.
Yes. Not only the neighbor kids, it's the neighbor relatives. And it's like, shh, be quiet. Maybe they think we're not here.
Gee, that's unbelievable.
I don't know.
Now, I have to tell you, my little, the 3-year-old granddaughter's hilarious. This is the one who's going to be, I don't know, everyone has one in there. You have a creative, sort of a dreamer in your family.
Oh,
Who's
yeah.
That? Is that
Amelia?
That's Amelia, yeah.
Yeah.
So little Remington, she's funny. She's a dreamer. She's into unicorns and magic and everything. She's just sort of out there taking in the world. And so she heard the song, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
Oh, boy.
And
that's a favorite.
She said something to her mom like, that's not very nice. She was really struck by that. It's like, why would the reindeer hurt Grandma? She's got that kind of a soul. And speaking of that, we were at a so we went out to eat on, what was that, Saturday evening. And there's this down in Clarksville, where they're at Fort Campbell. There's this place, it feels like a warehouse, and they converted it into a big arcade on one side. They've got
Nashvilleian.
indoor go-karts and a tower thing that bounces you up and down if you're sitting. And
everything costs $50.
Yeah. Those wristbands, that was it. That's Christmas. Hope you enjoyed it, kids.
Yeah.
But, and then there's a restaurant next door. So we're walking out of the restaurant. By that time, it's snowed and it's melted and it's wet. And little Remy, who just had a trauma because they went to the arcade and you get so many points, and if you hit the hammer and you go up to 1,000, I struggled with that girl for 15 minutes to win her prize. We only had 400 points, and she wanted the big fluffy bear that's like 12,000 points. All she could get was like a little plastic octopus that was purple.
Yeah, you spend $100 and you get something that's worth $5.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
Been there.
She says, Papa, it's so hard. I just can't decide. And we decided and decided and decided. So we're walking. Finally, we got through that, smoothed that over. She's walking out with her purple octopus little thing. And she looks down, and I swear we're walking out to the car, and right where the sidewalk meets the road on the blacktop, she says, look, Papa, money. And it was clearly a waterlogged $20 bill.
Yeah.
Plastered. And I'm looking around. There was no one who had just gotten into a car, out of a car. And this is a moment where Papa has scruples moments, right? What do we do now? I'm like, well, what do you want to do with that? Should we give it to someone inside? Maybe someone. I want to keep it.
Good girl.
But later on, she wants to either give it to her sister or buy a toy for someone. It's just so sweet, But it was one of those moments I didn't know what to do. I'm like, if we give it to someone inside, it's going to go in their wallet.
Give it to Papa.
And how long did she sing Grandma Got Run Over
There you
for?
go. Men's Equality Month when we come back. Stay tuned. about the International Council for Men and Boys. She's a spokeswoman for that. Welcome into the program, Dr. Carl. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Please call me Dr. Gilda. That's what everybody else calls me.
Well, I will do that, Dr. Gilda. Yeah, and I know that you're popular on the speaking tour and been seen on many media platforms as well.
Yeah.
So, look, I think a lot of people would say, what do you mean? Guys really have it tough. Let's get out the violins. Come on. This is a patriarchal society after all, and come on, what's the problem? But I don't know. You talk to a lot of guys. I talk to friends who are quite qualified. Maybe they've been displaced from a job or they moved, and man, they're having a hard time even getting a look when it comes to applying for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What say you?
Yes, that is exactly correct. Well, the International Council for Men and Boys, of which I am spokesperson, has done a lot of research. We have a lot of PhDs who do tremendous amounts of data analysis. And we have found that areas of male equality span 12 different arenas, from education to health, violence against men. We all think that men beat up women. The actual statistics show that women beat up men as often as men beat up women. So,
really?
I mean, yes, indeed. And for each one of these sectors, we find that homelessness abundant in men, partner abuse abundant in men being accused of that, victims of crime, workplace injury. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So whatever we are being told is not true. I wrote Real Men Don't Go Woke specifically because the male suicide rate is 4 times greater than that of women. Add that to the lowering of testosterone and the Y chromosome thinning out and the depression and the loneliness and all the things that are going on for men today, i.e., what you just exemplified, men who can't find jobs. They may be older than somebody would like. They may be whiter than somebody would like. I mean, it goes on and on and on. All natures of discrimination is lodged against men. And for the past years, men did not speak out. And so they internalized their upset, i.e., the suicide rates that have climbed and are continuing to climb. And it wouldn't be as horrific. It's horrific to begin with, but it wouldn't be as horrific if it weren't also filtering down to young boys committing suicide.
Yeah, I mean, it's an epidemic, and I've noticed it here, even in our local community, a lot amongst older men. But you're right. I worry about the youth, and I hear it from fellow moms with the discrimination that you're talking about. As a mom who's raising a middle class white male, I have real concerns whether he's going to try to apply to college, get a job, that he's going to be not looked down, like not discriminated, have reverse discrimination. And we can talk about historic discrimination,
so glad but
I've heard it.
That.
Yeah, I've heard it from other moms and say, I don't think my son got a fair shake. And it's tough as a mom. Like, how do you teach diversity and equality and respect, but also, don't want your own son to be discriminated against in any way? It's tough.
Well, it's interesting that so many mothers, fathers too, but so many mothers are thanking me for writing this book, Real Men Don't Go Woke. Somebody called it a love letter for men. I mean, it talks about where men are, how they got there, why they are internalizing their anger rather than expressing it calmly and in a communicative way that is understood, and what we can do in the future. There are solutions here. Talk about how you feel. Talk about being vulnerable. I mean, men don't even want to use the word vulnerable for fear they're going to be looked upon as being wusses. We cannot do this to our men. And now mothers, this is a new trend that I am just discovering. Mothers are coming to me talking about their boys who are in their 20s, some are in their 30s, and they are being taken advantage of by the woke women who are out there. And a couple of women that I know, mothers that I know, are going into their sons' homes and trying to take over the homes because the girls that the guys have been involved with have been so toxic to their sons. Have you heard of this before? It is starting to, that people are coming to me and saying, would you work with my son? He's got to get out of this relationship. And then, of course, the guys are turning to liquor and alcohol, all kinds of alcohol and drugs and porn and all the things that I write about in the book. And that's no way to go, obviously, because they are committing suicide by installment. We cannot allow this to continue. And even President Trump talked about the male suicide rate. When are Americans going to wake up? Excuse me, it's not only Americans, because this is the International Council for Men and Boys, and we have at our meetings men and a few women from India, Israel, Iceland. I mean, you have every country represented where men are being put down. What are we going to do? There are some women speaking up, and one of them is me.
And that me is Dr. Gilda Carl, Dr. Gilda, author of Real Men Don't Go Woke and spokesperson for International Council for Men and Boys, and that's menandboys.net. She joins us on Wake Up Missouri this morning.
Doctor, talk to us about the presumably well-adjusted, let's say, young men who are in decent relationships, have a good job, but they seem across the board to be walking on eggshells.
Oh, my goodness. I just recently saw a study that said, once again, white men are walking on eggshells. White men are afraid to open their mouths because when they do, they're accused of everything, including being racist. I mean, if you open your mouth, you walk out the door and you're male, you're automatically deemed toxic. So what happens after that? Some of the men are going in the opposite direction. You know, the pendulum goes from one extreme to the other until it finds its modicum. So the next extreme is to go woke. And how that is defined is they go voiceless, spineless. They never open up their mouths. They never talk about what's going on inside of them and how they are feeling. And they're not using the word no for fear they're going to be canceled and disappear from the workforce. And this has happened to a number of men that I have spoken to. One who is a PhD, who thanked me for writing this book and speaking out on behalf of men. He said, because I can't. What kind of a world is this where men can't speak out? What are we doing? So the ones who seem like they are in good shape, like they are well-adjusted, everything's fine, may be so until they have to disagree with somebody who doesn't like what they have to say.
Yeah, go along to get along only goes so far. There becomes an end of that road. What about the our boy was growing up at a time in the 90s, late 90s, when a boy being a boy in grade or middle school was suddenly an ADHD kid, right? And a lot of medication because boys and girls are so. Does it start there, Gilda? Is that where it starts, Dr. Gilda?
I do believe it does. When a little girl is acting out in the sandbox, nobody says anything because she's just a little girl. And they say, okay, be nice, play nice. When a little boy acts out more aggressively and throws sand on his friend or whatever, he is immediately told not to do that and stop doing that, or a parent might look the other way because boys are just being boys. So what is right? Who knows this? Nobody. I had this problem. I was teaching one of my MBA courses, and I told the students, they're all adults, I told the students that little boys and little girls are not raised the same way. And one guy took exception and he said, oh, no. We have toddlers at home. My wife and I treat both our boys, our little boy and our little girl, identically. I said, okay, don't say another word. I'll see you next week for class, and I want you to report back to me and tell me what has happened. The man came back, and he said, I have to apologize. Mm-hmm. And just as I had predicted, little girl was playing in the sandbox, being aggressive. She threw sand on another little girl. Mommy says, stop that. Don't do that. Play nice. Little boy is throwing sand on another little boy. Nobody says anything. Mommy identifies with the idea that boys will be boys.
Yeah.
They are not being raised identically at all. And this father said, I have to apologize because I saw that with my own eyes, and we don't realize it.
Well, we thank you, Dr. Gilda, for writing the book, Real Men Don't Go Woke, and for being a spokesperson for the International Council for Men and Boys, to really bring to light and really be transparent about something that we all know, but we're all afraid to say anything about. And you're preaching it loud and wide. So thanks so very much for that. Appreciate you being with us.
God bless you for saying that all. Thank you so much.
Take care. Interesting topic. Interesting thoughts. Dr. Gilda Carr. When we come back, the morning bell. Let's see how the markets are doing.
It's Wake Up
I hear the morning bell. How are the markets looking?
Ooh, not great. Yesterday was a down day. We had the Dow down 0.90%, the S&P down 0.53%, the Nasdaq down 0.38%. Amongst the biggest losers was utilities, health, and industrials, while we saw modest gains or slight gains with consumer discretionary technology and a slightly bigger gain with energy yesterday. Now, we've been talking a little bit of travel this morning. Well, we should first I'm going to mention Bitcoin, because we've had some guests on here talking about it, and it is also taking a nosedive. I'm just a bevy of good news this morning. So get ready. We can return to our regularly scheduled happy programming after the market report, because we've had some guests on the show talking to us about Bitcoin. I haven't yet dipped my toe into it, but it's I think getting more attractive to a lot of folks. But it has not had a great few months. It plunged yesterday, briefly dipping below 85,000 before regaining some ground. And it had its worst day since March. Digital currency is down more than 30% since its record high in October. So not great.
I remember when we were celebrating it being over 100,000, thought, oh, that's really cool. And it went beyond that. Now below what? 80?
It dipped below 85,000 yesterday. So I guess now's a good time to buy if you want to get in on it. The other folks who are not having a good day besides Bitcoin holders is Airbus. It affected some Thanksgiving travelers. Over 500 planes in the U.S., including American and Delta and JetBlue. They canceled 70 flights on Sunday, and that's because we had there's a computer issue impacting the A320 control system, and that is affecting Airbus. Now, Airbus apparently surpassed Boeing. This A320 is one of the most popular planes in use, and so it recalled 6,000 of these planes over the weekend due to a separate software glitch, but now it has this faulty fuselage panel that's grounding even more planes. They're saying actually some of these software issues are caused by these geomagnetic storms that we saw the Northern Lights just here recently, spurred by intensified solar flares. And the glitch, we heard about this flight that was from, Cancun to Newark, and it abruptly lost altitude, and that was supposedly a result of the software glitch.
Wow.
So now they're grounding these very popular Airbus planes. Their stock yesterday tanked 10%.
So Boeing's cheering because Lord knows they had their series of technological failures.
Right.
And that hurt them. I mean, they were losing billions of dollars, and I think they've done a turnaround plan that apparently has been fairly successul.
Yeah. And these planes, the A320 surpassed Boeing 737 as the world's best-selling planes here just recently, but maybe people are rethinking.
I always look at the back of the seat, card, but sometimes it doesn't really say what the make of the plane is. There's just a number. A lot of them are Canadian planes. Some of those commuter planes are made in Canada, actually.
I do not.
Yeah.
I don't want to know all the details.
Yeah.
I feel like the back of the plane thing, you should just open it and it should say, "You are dead." Like, if something goes wrong, you don't have a lot of options. Yeah. I'm freaking out. I'm not putting on my mask or inflating anything.
You just bury your head in your computer and don't even think about any of that. Just don't worry about it.
If I think about being in a metal tube flying through the air, yeah. I can't. I would give myself a panic attack.
Well, you talk about those Bombardier or Bombardier, however you want to pronounce it, out of Canada.
Yeah.
Steph, I know. United and American fly those all the time.
You don't hear
regional jets,
and you don't hear a lot of snafus with those planes.
It's only a matter of time, I'm sure.
Mrs. Happy Pants, Stephanie Bell.
Filling in for Randy this morning.
With the morning market report. Holy cow. Be back.
I think just local news
on millions of unvetted illegal aliens to be rewarded with amnesty after they broke our nation's laws to come here. They must go back to their home countries. It is also essential to immediately address the massive fraud and corruption that has been going on for decades in other aspects of our immigration system, most notably when it comes to asylum claims. Millions of people who have come here under false pretenses are told blatant lies now enjoy temporary legal status.
Well, Caroline Leavitt, I think, really defining and framing a countrywide discussion after the tragic and horrific shooting in the light of day, just broad daylight, of National Guards woman, 20-year-old young lady who had volunteered to just have a presence on the streets of D.C. on Wednesday, actually. And then her partner on that mission is clinging to life in an ICU. Apparently he wiggled his toes and made another acknowledgement that he is sentient, and we'll have to see what happens in terms of his long-term recovery. But doing nothing but just following the orders. Many on the web, did you see that in the wake of that, Stephanie? People posting on the web that, well, if you obey illegal orders and you're in the city, you get what you deserve, basically. I saw one after another. I saw that tweets on the X feed. I could not believe my eyes. I could not believe it. But I think many have now become very, very acutely aware. There's the truckers that are in that can't drive, can't read the road signs. There are the multiple attacks that we had by people coming across the border. There are terrorists among us that have yet to be vetted, yet to be booted out. And I think it's really raised a whole new discussion about what is our proper immigration policy and how and what will and when will reform come. And I think more and more people are saying enough of this already. This is an exclusive membership club. And in order to be a member of this club, there are certain standards of behavior and certain worldview that we abide by. Now, there was a reporter who asked Caroline about, well, what do you mean by this national identity? Because she said in another clip that people have a duty, leaders have a duty to really make sure that people abide by that. And here's a little bit of that.
Even when it comes to our legal immigration system, past presidents have failed to ensure that all prospective citizens love America, will add value and contribute to our communities, and will assimilate into our culture.
Okay, so you got to love America. You want to assimilate. You don't need to destroy us after we've been generous enough to allow you into our country. I mean, it's like this is a special privilege to be a part of this country. And we have granted that in the past, but the expectation was it was like a social contract that, hey, you're expected to sort of play by the rules and believe in America. So then a reporter tried to hang her up and said, well, what exactly do you mean by national identity? And once again, Caroline came through.
Does not add to our nation's character and integrity is refugees who come here under the alleged plight of asylum and fleeing persecution, and then come to the United States to abuse our system and rip off American taxpayers. And as I pointed out, the New York Times, to their credit, it was about 6 months too late, but they did write about how Somali immigrants in Minnesota have been ripping off American taxpayers.
We talked about that earlier. The scam of $1 billion that the Somalians up there routed through a non-governmental organization that was supposed to be for the benefit of special needs kids, autism, and others. And it ended up going to Boko Haram, that terrorist group. I mean, and Walz punished the whistleblowers inside Minnesota in the bureaucracy who criticized it. He was retaliating. That was crazy. I think this is a discussion that we have to see how this plays out. I think this is going to, again, sort of resonate with a lot of the folks maybe in the middle of the voting block that say, you know what, I may not like Donald Trump, sometimes his demeanor, some of the things he says, but boy, oh boy, he's getting it right when it comes to what it is to be an American and our sovereignty and protecting it. Because if we don't, I mean, what's left? You don't have a country.
Yeah, and I mean, we're all tax time is a-coming, right? And so to imagine for the folks in Minnesota, it was millions and millions of dollars of your hard-earned money that then is going to their government to fraudulently go to these folks to then end up in the hands of terrorists. I mean, that's not why I show up to work every day.
And on the heels of Trump saying he was putting a pause on travel from several countries, Kristi Noem doubles down and then some, writing yesterday on X, I just met with the president. I'm recommending a full travel ban on every I'm substituting darn for the other word, country that's been flooding our nation with killers, leeches, and entitlement junkies. Our forefathers built this nation on blood, sweat, and the unyielding love of freedom, not for foreign invaders to slaughter our heroes, suck dry our hard-earned tax dollars, or snatch the benefits owed to Americans. In capitals, we don't want them, not one. Now, the left is going to try, and the media is going to try to portray that as xenophobic, racist, and I think most Americans are going, get out of here. Just don't. Get out of here, media. What are you talking about? It has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with xenophobia. It has to do with loving America and its values and its first principles. Either love it or leave it, or better yet, don't even come here in the first place.
And just safety, right? I think we can agree that I think we can disagree about the different functions of government, but I think we can all agree that one essential function of government is to make sure you're safe. And I think we've seen that focus at our state level in finding ways to make cities like St. Louis more safe. We talked to Chief Schluty today about ways Columbia has been working with other entities to try to keep us safe. And so, I don't really care what color you are. If you're trying to murder us, I have a problem with that.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
And we need to just immediately say, stop. You're the one liberal. You're the one progressive. You're the one who's trying to play that race card. No, we're not playing a race card. This is about an American card. This is about a values card. This is about a virtue card. Stop right there. Enough with the racism. We're not buying it. We're done with that. Stop it. You need to stop them early on. And they can't define the narrative with their terminology. They just can't get away with that anymore. John, I think it's time that Americans go on the offensive and say, look, you're welcome into this country if you want to assimilate. And I think there's a good way to figure out how that happens.
Yeah, I'm sure. And what was it? I think it was the 4th of July that the president issued his list of countries that he was putting the skids on, from Iran and Afghanistan and all that, and said nobody was going to be welcomed in from those countries. And there were some others. Yeah. That were on kind of limited status. The thing kind of sticks in my mind here lately, and I don't know why, is the president's approval rating is at 36%. And we remember Joe Biden, before he pulled out of the presidential race, I think his approval rating was in the low 30s. So yeah, you have to be concerned.
Well, there's no doubt that we're at a time in our country where people are successfully distracting from the real issue by these other points. And but sometimes he's his own worst enemy that way, right? His very solid message gets mixed up in some of the rhetoric, which can be a little reckless from time to time, and no doubt about that.
It sure gives the other guys a lot of room to make hay while the sun shines. It didn't Mark Kelly certainly didn't waste any time about jumping on the narrative about the second strike on the drug boat.
Yeah. That's going to be interesting to see how that comes out. I mean, I know that we had there are people who have said, look, this needs to be vetted. I heard former Secretary of State Pompeo saying, look, the president's doing what he needs to do to protect Americans from these invaders. I mean, and he's defined them as that. And if someone disagrees with that, I guess they can vote someone else in, right? I mean,
and they cited World War II, where the Japanese machine gunned, survivors of ships they'd attacked in the South Pacific. And in defense of that, the U.S. Navy did the same kind of thing on a limited basis. And so did the Germans on the U-boats and all. So then you're back to the whole discussion of, is this a war crime, whether it's a declared war or not?
No, that's right. How are you going to get them on that technicality? At the end of the day, there is still a lot of cleanup to be done. Joe Biden and his administration, by looking the other way, actually just created this entire landscape of of criminality to begin with in the first place. If the first thing you do when you come into this country is break the law to get here. And by the way, you heard Caroline Leavitt talk about putting a pause on asylum adjudications. Now, does that mean we're not going to get some of these people out of there by adjudicating them asylum ineligible? I mean, maybe that's going to be counterproductive. But I just think there's, especially with when we're reporting over and over and over on jobs and the layoffs. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs, retail, tech, everywhere. The last thing we need is more people here competing for jobs. And maybe you could say, well, they're not skilled jobs. Well, maybe some of those people who were doing white-collar jobs need to learn to do blue-collar jobs. Sign up with Mike Rowe's program. I'm sorry. That's something that defines America is resilience. And let's not forget that complicit along the way for decades has been corporate America, who've wanted cheap labor to maintain profits. Some economists will say, you Americans, you like the cheap produce, you like the cheap things, and some of that is more, you like the hotels that are affordable and the housekeepers that come here, maybe some are legal, some aren't, I don't know, but, you like that. You're ready to pay more for domestic labor? Well, that's a question. I am. I've had it with these people, trucker that can't read a sign, passes the test. What about the trucking schools, 40% of whom apparently are passing people through that can't really pass the test? Shame on them. They need to be sanctioned and probably prosecuted if they're willfully disobeying the laws for passing these people out of school.
And then you get the whole argument from the union folks who say, see, we told you.
Yeah. That's right.
Because of apprenticeship programs and journeymen and all that, in the union side of the workforce, they are vetted.
It's a good point. You make a very, very good point. Hey, well, let's step aside. When we come back, we'll wrap it up with some leftovers. Here on Wake Up, Missouri, it is snowy. Well, I guess the snow's over, but it's icy. I slipped and fell yesterday on ice.
You did?
I wasn't even aware of it, but it's okay. All's good. Be careful about there. That freeze and refreeze thing and melt and refreeze is a big problem. Be back with more.
It's Wake Up, Missouri.
You'll want to stay tuned for after this show comes the Gary Nolan program, and Jennifer Bukowski will join him. I guess it's a usual Tuesday, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
and something we talked about yesterday that I know she wanted to update today about was that Luigi Mangione suppression hearing is going on. It began yesterday with a lot of fanfare, but potentially affecting what evidence can and can't be admitted at trial.
Well, I guess they searched his backpack but didn't give him his Miranda rights or whatever. Or they didn't have a search warrant. Yeah. Interesting. And then, of course, later on, every day is Eagle Eye Drive at 5 with Mike Murphy. So great programming here. We want to keep it here. Drake, you've got some good news about bowl prospects, huh? For various area teams.
I wouldn't call it great news since I'm a diehard Mizzou fan because we're going to get the toilet bowl. But Missouri State is bowl eligible along with the other FCS transition team this year, which is the Delaware Blue Hens.
Now, that's interesting because, remember, we talked with Representative Stennett, who said that she was lobbying the NCAA to try. So she got that through. Because you're not normally eligible in your first year, or is that just for the playoffs?
I mean, if you make it in the playoffs, then good on you. But I mean, what ended up, it all shook out the right way. Okay. It's just that my interpretation is that they don't have they're almost like a lesser tier. So if they are tied with another team, they won't get in, but the other team will. But there were two openings for bowl games, so that's great.
That's great. So, I heard that the bowl announcements might be made this Sunday. Somewhere I heard that.
It's December 7th, yes. Whatever.
So Mizzou will find out?
Mizzou finds out the 7th. That's this Sunday. And the Missourian is reporting potential. It's not the toilet bowl. Apparently, the first one on their list, we could be going to Duke's Mayo Bowl.
The Mayo Bowl. Oh, boy.
They're saying Liberty Bowl, Music City Bowl, Texas Bowl, ReliaQuest Bowl, that's in Tampa Bay.
Now, Music City Bowl.
Gator Bowl. We've been there before. That's
you might like to go there if they end up there, right?
Yeah.
Nashville. It's like
Chiefs
Stephanie's second home.
Yeah, Chiefs
I will reveal that in the press box at one of our Mizzou games, there were representatives from the Fiesta Bowl watching the Tigers play early on in the season.
Early on?
The early half of the season, because I talked to them. I said, where are you guys from? Fiesta Bowl.
Interesting.
Interesting. There were also a fair amount of NFL scouts all season long in the press box at Mizzou.
What a gig. Can you imagine? You're the curator of the bowl. You get to go and watch all these college football games, get your expenses paid, and wow, what a nice gig that would be, huh?
You know how much planning goes into that?
There's
Randy?
a lot of work. That's what I was going to say. These guys, they don't just sit there eating free hot dogs and drinking soda. They are hard at it, and it's usually a team of 2 or 3 people.
Well, what are they looking at? I mean, stats or?
Well, looking at the team, the overall way the team's playing and predictions and looking at past performances and all.
Yeah, and with bowls, I mean, it's not just a game that gets played. It's almost like a vacation for the players, a reward. I mean, they spend a week there with so many different traditions and all that. I mean, it was a week-long ordeal at the Cotton Bowl when I went.
Wow. All right. Well, we'll have to, I guess we'll report on that next Monday as far as the bowl announcements. It'll be good. But it'd be exciting if the Bears got a bowl opportunity. That'd be fun.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Hey, there's a favorite coming back to Trader Joe's. Stephanie, you may be interested
I
in
can't wait.
Did you see that?
I have not tried it, but it's been gone apparently for 7 years, and it gives me hope because years ago we bought this barbecue sauce, and it was delicious. We made the mistake of only buying one bottle, and for the last 10 years, every time I go in, I'm like, I wonder if they'll bring that back. It hasn't made it back, but this thing's been gone for how long? 7?
They retired this chocolate mascarpone 7 years ago. Apparently it's coming back now.
It's not as good as the cookie butter, I can guarantee you that, which is on the shelves.
This is like a dessert cheese. It's good. Helene uses a substitute. I think it's a little better. I don't know, a little better than cream cheese maybe. Anyway. Well, tomorrow we'll be following the stories you heard about today and, of course, new ones that will evolve. Maybe we'll know more about that no travel, no immigration from list when we bring you tomorrow's Wake Up Missouri. Thanks for being with us. Stay safe.